こんにちは。スーパーヒーローランダーへようこそ。クリムゾンと言います。そして今日はメカを見ます。
Nice. That's right. It's time to delve into a realm I know nothing about, try to explain it terribly, then get a bunch of commenters pissed off in the comments that I won't be reading. But before we get to Ultraman-Z, we need to start at the beginning, with E.G. Tsuburaya and Godzilla. So who was Tsuburaya? He was a special effects director who co-created Godzilla and the Ultraman franchises. He's considered one of the most important and influential figures in the history of cinema. He has been known as the father of tokusatsu, and he pioneered the special effects industry in Japan. While having an amazing career in inventing a crane with no blueprints like D.W. Griffith's shooting crane in America, that all pales in comparison to his achievements with Godzilla and the Ultra series. In 1937, he was hired by Toho, the company responsible for distributing Godzilla, Akira Kurosawa, and Studio Ghibli. The reason for me doing this? I learned a lot while researching this episode, and I figured you know this already, but hey, maybe you don't. During World War II, Tsuburaya shot flight training films as well as propaganda films after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. One of his films, The War at Sea from Hawaii to Malaya, was so successful and realistic that footage from it was later featured in documentaries on the Pearl Harbor attack. After the war and during the occupation of Japan, Tsuburaya was purged from Toho because he had made propaganda films during World War II. Interestingly, the U.S. occupation officials expelled him because they assumed he had access to classified documents when filming the Pearl Harbor movie, and they labeled him a spy because of it. Fucking white people. Anyway, in 1952, his exile from public office was officially lifted, and finally he gave us Godzilla and the Ultra series. Now it's time for some definitions, because I don't think I can keep all of these straight in this episode without defining some of them. First of all, tokusatsu is the medium of filming which involves live action mixed with special effects and is nicknamed toku. You have your Godzillas, your Kamen Rider, your Ultra, and your Super Sentai. All of that goes under the toku umbrella. And toku has interesting origins as well. Tokusatsu can trace its origins to two types of Japanese live theater, kabuki and banraku. Kabuki has its origins in the early Edo period when Japan was under the rule of the Tokugawa shogunate. To paint with a broad brush, kabuki is noted for heavily stylized performances and elaborate costumes and makeup. Banraku emerged in Osaka in the 17th century and utilized puppets and music in their performances. These two distinct styles have a commonality in their use of some of the earliest forms of what we now call special effects, specifically practical effects. Next we have Sentai, which is usually a group of heroes fighting a villainous group. Think Voltron, TMNT, and Sailor Moon. Kyodai Hero, which is literally giant hero, is a huge guy fighting monsters, aka kaiju, or other huge guys. And finally, there's Super Sentai, which is a specific franchise owned by Toei that apparently more often than not becomes Power Rangers. Yeah, I don't know when the next History of Power Rangers is out. He doesn't tell me everything. Okay, so we've established all that. Let's talk about Godzilla briefly. Godzilla is a prehistoric reptilian monster kaiju that is awakened and powered by nuclear radiation. Nowadays, he's used as a commentary on Japan's apathy of its past, nuclear weapons, natural disasters, and the human condition. Godzilla was conceived with the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as well as the Lucky Dragon No. 5 incident in the consciousness of the Japanese. We in the West know how the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki went, but not many know about the Lucky Dragon No. 5 incident. The Lucky Dragon No. 5 was a fishing boat that encountered the fallout from the Castle Bravo nuclear test at Bikini Atoll on March 1, 1954. The wind patterns had changed and blew the fallout outside of the danger zone, and radioactive particles had made it onto the ship, and the fishermen were diagnosed with acute radiation syndrome. It's in this environment that Godzilla was born in Japan. The film combines live action with special effects like the toku film it is, but it is also a kaiju film as it includes a giant monster and would go on to include My Girl Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Rodan, among others. Special effects were extremely important to making Godzilla believable, and because he's been around for more than 60 years, it's a testament to how good Tsuburaya's special effect work actually was. In 1954, there really wasn't any CGI, so they had to do everything practically. For example, suit actor Hiroyo Nakajima donned a 200-pound-plus suit for the role to depict Godzilla as a 164-meter tall monster weighing 20,000 tons. It turned out that the heavy suit, made with a combination of wires, bamboo, chicken wire, fabric, cushions, and latex, helped make Nakajima move in appropriately lumbering ways. He had also referenced the movement of elephants and even went so far as to not show the soles of Godzilla's feet while walking, suggesting it would make the character look weak. In addition, the filmmakers slowed down Godzilla action, sometimes by 3 times the normal film speed, since slow motion added a sense of scale to the monster action. There were also insert shots of hand-puppeteered Godzilla pieces, such as a mouth or eyes, that helped sell the scale. Which finally brings us to the Ultra series. I had to set a lot of this up because I didn't even know half of the influences of the series until I started researching it. Now, I watched Ultraman-Z, which is a 25-episode series that was made right before the human malware as it was released in June of 2020. I like that Ultraman is not really a human or a monster. He's more of a mix of technology and the human pilot he inhabits. Ultraman himself is neither quite human nor quite monster in appearance, but android, a conglomeration of biology and technology. Though he is from a distant nebula, Ultraman fights in a style imitative of Japanese martial arts. With his peacetime Japanese identity, he is typical, I think, of the Japanized outside influences that have provided practical solution to the nation's problems, in particular since the Meiji Restoration and industrialization, but also in general throughout Japan's history. In fact, while a majority of the monsters are from outside, some of them represent homegrown problems in need of technological solution. For example, Jiran is a creature made monstrous through careless scientific experiments in Tokyo, and Zazarun is a beast created by the polluted waters of Tokyo Bay. Though to be fair, Ultraman is more of a symbiote than an android, so the quote is using some loose metaphors by that metric. But there are other series, and the Ultra series started with Ultra Q in 1966. It is the first entry in the series, but does not apparently even feature the character of Ultraman, instead being an attempt at making a Twilight Zone or Outer Limits type series. The history of the Ultraman series extends back to 1966, when a show called Ultra Q debuted in January of that year. Ultra Q centered not on giant heroes, but a group of normal people. One a pilot, another his co-pilot, and the third a female news photographer. Every episode played out along the same lines. A monster would appear or an inexplicable event would happen and the trio would face it. Ultraman, which aired in July of 1966, was a successor to this show. And a lot of people take inspiration from the series, including Peyton Reed, who directed Ant-Man in the MCU, and Hideki Kamiya, who made the Bayonetta and Devil May Cry series, among others. Obviously, that's just the tip of the iceberg here. I really liked the show, and I thought it was very interesting on my first watch-through. Ultraman-Z really stuck with me for my second watch-through, though. So, Ultraman-Z is about a guy named Haruki and his co-workers at Storage. Their job is to stop the monsters that plague the city in these amazing robots, and I will describe them exactly as I remember them. Scavenger is the can, Wyndham is the chicken, King Joe has the gun arm, Ultroid Zero is the huge mistake. Anyway, while that's happening in Japan and on planet Earth, Ultraman-Z is fighting a space shark. His master, who is not actually his master, I guess, but more of a mentor, gets sucked into someplace, but before he does, he gives the medals that he had to Z and says, "Go fight the space shark for the rest of the medals. Get them back." When Z arrives on Earth to fight the space shark, Haruki tries to help in the can Scavenger, but he dies in the explosion, so Z introduces himself and informs him that he died. Credits. Right? No, instead they team up with Z saving Haruki's life and giving him access to all of Ultraman-Z's powers. And as I said earlier, this is practical effects with CGI, but it's very fluid in a lot of ways and makes the powers look all the more awesome. Also, well, yeah, there's so many languages on this planet. How the fuck do you just know Japanese? Most of the season is Haruki and Yoko, his co-worker, best friend, love interest, and all-around badass fighting in Scavenger and Wyndham until Haruki calls on Ultraman-Z and other Ultraman to help him defeat the monster when they can't, which is, let's face it, 95% of the time. The arc for the season is when a space monster possesses a guy and will definitely be the villain for Ultraman-Z near the end of the series. The villain finally makes his way to possessing the director of Global Allied Forces Japan, who in turn disbands storage and gets the humans to make Ultroid Zero, who again is a mistake. One of the more prominent themes of this show, besides arm wrestling for your love, is the Gaia hypothesis, the idea that the Earth is one living organism that wants to be in balance with itself. It's established from the jump that there are Earth kaiju like Gomez and alien kaiju like Genengarg. When Storage develops Avenger and Wyndham to fight the Earth kaiju, there's no huge problem because it's Earth tech solving Earth problems. But as soon as alien tech is used to make our Lord and Savior King Joe, the characters point out that it's a sharp jump ahead from Wyndham and are worried about the fallout of having such a powerful weapon. This comes to fruition later with the experimental D4 ray in Ultroid Zero's tests causing a mass awakening of kaiju worldwide. Humanity has fucked up and the planet is telling us to take several seats. And just in case anyone is wondering, favorite human is Yuka, my favorite alien is Beliarock just because he doesn't care, and let's face it, that's my brand. My favorite kaiju is Genengarg, the space shark, because who doesn't love a space shark? And my favorite Seijin is Barossa, just because Space Pirate Alien is the name of my hardcore sci-fi band. Anyway, the villain possesses Yoko and becomes Destrudos at the end of his series-long evil game. Jugless Juggler, the captain of Storage and Haruki's boss, is also an alien from outer space and helps get back Yoko as they both fight Destrudos. After Z is knocked out at his strongest, he finally unleashes his full power to save the Earth and destroy Destrudos. I don't have any real critiques of this series, as this is my first Ultra series. I liked the Yoko and Haruki friendship, and the theme song is kick-ass. I also like some of the fight moves that Z uses as he fights the monsters. And they don't always destroy the monsters, which I like, and I feel is an homage to Godzilla going back to the ocean until he's needed again. I also like that the good guys don't win right away, too. It gives it a more solid footing, I feel. The monsters also have sympathy, which I like. Through these brilliant effects, the program realizes one of the Ultra franchise's greatest elements. Its framing of monsters as worthy of sympathy. As the series progresses, an arc emerges in which Haruki struggles to reconcile saving the day with killing the monsters. This arc is also tied to the death of Haruki's father, lending a personal dimension to the dilemma. Haruki wants to do well, making him an earnest and likable person, but he can't do so without guilt over the fallen monsters. Like Haruki, the audience is forced to see monsters like Red King as thinking, feeling, and emotional creatures. Like all the best monster stories, we see the beauty in the other. Overall, I really enjoyed this introduction to the Ultra series, and would actually probably enjoy watching all the series at some point. But this series is great, from the Notice Me Senpai Zero to the monsters to the special effects. And it's a shared universe, but not like a machine cash grab shared universe like the MCU or the now defunct DCEU. I mean, I love Marvel and DC, but they get exhausting. I haven't even seen some of the television shows that MCU has put out, but Ultraman-Z is a small slice of a franchise I knew nothing about. I'm glad that I got to watch it. I'm glad that it gave me a sense of joy I used to have when I was watching Phase 1 of Marvel. And I can't wait to see more of it. Some of it is on YouTube. I am excited to see other shows from other countries. That's the thing about superheroes. They come from all cultures and backgrounds. Sure, there's Captain America and Superman, but they are uniquely American. I don't mind showing that to you as long as you indulge me when I talk about something like Gundala from Indonesia or Ultraman-Z from Japan.